Welcome. I'm the Deadwood Jedi, and this is another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are in the account of Audrey Kirill. He asked for an account to take over, and that's what we're doing today. Now, he was doing 3 to 4 key Ultra Nightmare a while ago, but then he switched to an Unkillable team and was really struggling with it. Maybe doing 15 million a key, just couldn't get the tune right. So he came to me, asked if I could fix his team for him, and I said, of course, that's what I do. And so that's where we are today. Now, he was trying to do that Santa Unkillable on auto team. Really tough team to kind of get together. It uses a lot of different things, right? They're talking about the stun targeting from the budget Unkillable. You're talking about trying to use Painkeeper and getting the tune right. It's not easy. Well, I was able to fix it. There are a couple little mastery issues. Wasn't too difficult for me to get fixed and get right. That composition, while it's excellent, and it's the best Santa one that I know of, it is a little bit difficult to get massive amounts of damage out of. Painkeeper doesn't do a ton. Your stun target doesn't do a ton. And Sir Nicholas, he can do some decent damage, but it's not spectacular numbers, right? So basically you only have 2 spots for DPS champions. And then when you're dealing with Green Affinity, it really drops down to 1. So it's not like the best Unkillable composition out there, just the best Sir Nicholas one that I know. And he had a couple of interesting champions on his account too, namely 2 Roschard the Towers. Now, there's a lot of compositions that use Roschard with a Warcaster or Roschard with a Sir Nicholas. There's a reason why they don't use 2 Roshards in them. If everybody on your team has block damage up, Roschard won't use his skill to put block damage up again. Even if it's about to fall off of himself, if he says, well, everybody's got it, including me, I'm not going to use it. And that can make it really difficult to find the tune for it. But I found a solution around that. And that's the team I want to show you guys today. The damage isn't really any better than we were doing with Sir Nicholas. But this is something I haven't seen. It's a little bit different. And it plays off of some of the comps we've seen before. We're talking about the same idea as that slow double Maneater composition. And you're like, well, Maneater has a 5-turn cooldown. Roschard has a 4-turn cooldown. How does that work? Well, remember what I said. He won't place block damage if everybody on the team has it on already. And because of that, because in that double Maneater composition, he goes both first and last, alternating when he goes with the other tower. Well, because he goes first, everybody will have block debuffs up, and then his will fall off. So even though that would be turn 4 for his cooldown, even though normally you'd think, oh, he'll use his block damage there, because it's already up from the previous Roschard, he's going to wait, and he'll use it on the second turn. And because of that, we're going to be able to alternate. And so what would be a 4-turn cooldown with his skill is actually being stretched out to a 5-turn cooldown because of the AI with his block damage skill. Now, I know this is a little bit confusing. I'm not expecting you guys to get this right now. I'm going to walk you through it as we do the run so you have a better understanding of exactly how this works. Now, the only other issue when you use 2 Roshards as opposed to Maneaters, it's obviously we're not blocking debuffs. So it's not affinity friendly naturally. So I had to make some adjustments and was able to come up with ways to make this affinity friendly. Now, much like the slow Maneater composition, we do have to change some of the speeds of one of the slow Roschard in order to make it work for Nightmare versus Ultra Nightmare. And we also have to do the same thing if we're going to make it work for Green Affinity as opposed to not. However, the changes are very small. So I think this is going to work really well for us. In fact, the Ultra Nightmare speeds are the same speeds we're going to use for Nightmare Green Affinity. And then when we face Ultra Nightmare Green Affinity, we're going to actually increase the slow Maneater or the slow tower speed to be the same as the fast tower speed. And by doing that and bringing in a Doom Priest, of course, we are able to stay affinity friendly. So that's what I'm going to show you guys today. Before we get into the affinity version of this, I'm actually going to show him on Nightmare. I want to show this run. We're not going to show the full runs today. We're going to show you the setup, explain how it works, and then skip more towards the end. These Unkillable teams get a little bit repetitive as you get into it, and I think we're going to try and shorten the videos a little bit, especially since we're going to be showing both run for Ultra Nightmare as well as Nightmare. But first, I want to show you this Nightmare run, and yeah, let's get into it. After that, I'll show you some of the gear stuff we have before we hit Ultra Nightmare. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the Nightmare run. Now, you can see we just have 3 DPS champions here, and we have our 2 towers. The first person you put in as your leader, that's the first person in your turn order. Second person in your turn order. As you go through, so you want the last 2 to be the towers to make sure they don't take a stun. If they take a stun, it can throw off... Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh my god, it doesn't matter. Okay guys, so this is the team we're going to be bringing in for Nightmare. Now, one of the beauties of this, we actually don't have to worry about who takes the stun or not. Doesn't matter. Towers can take the stun, and the reason why is because their skills are going to be cooled down way before they're actually being used. So it doesn't matter. We actually benefit some if the towers take the stun as opposed to one of our other champions. Now, obviously, I kind of want Septimus in the lead just because he has a really sweet aura. But truthfully, it doesn't matter. We do benefit if the towers take the stun because we want our other guys to be going and using their skills, taking doing their damage thing. So on Ultra Nightmare, this syncs on turn 7 on Void. On Nightmare, it syncs on turn 6. So that's what you want to know. And so, yeah, basically our job is to make sure that tower is unkillable on turn 6. At that point, everything works just perfectly fine. So my whole goal here in this part is just to set us up. I haven't worked out the optimal way to do that. I just know that there's a variety of way to do that. And so we're just going to kind of get there. My whole goal, though, is just to make sure we're unkillable by on turn 6. So I need to save some skills at that point. So we're just going to go ahead and use some stuff. Don't pay too much attention to what I'm doing or how I'm going about it. We're just trying to get some of this done here. So I'm going to try and move through this as fast as possible. Let me take myself off and speed through. Okay, we are in turn count 6. Now, you might have noticed on turn count 3, I waited to use that unkillable from the slow tower, the block damage, and then I didn't use the other towers. I wanted to make sure that even if he took a stun, it wouldn't matter. We'd still have this available. So that's why I held off. Now, he's going to get 2 attacks on this turn. So the first attack, we just do whatever, and then it's the second attack where we're going to need to put up the block damage. And so that's basically what we're going to be doing with all these champions. Very, very simple setup in that sense. Here you go. Second turn, block damage goes up, and that's how it goes. Now, I want you to pay attention. I'm putting on 1 speed. You can see everybody here has block damage up. They all have 2 turns block damage. So that other tower who had it available, it was a skill he could use, didn't use it because everybody has block damage available. You can see everybody took 1 turn. Now, at the start of this turn, he again doesn't use his block damage ability. It was available, he could have used it, but he didn't because everybody had block damage up. That's how this is going to work. And because he's going to take a second turn here, on that second turn he'll put the block damage up, and that's going to keep us unkillable from this point on. And that's essentially what's going throughout this. Now, you'll notice because it's tower, we're not blocking the debuff. The stun is going through. That's deliberate. That's how it works. One of the beautiful things is it can actually go on the tower. Look, he has all his skills available right here. All the skills are available. So if he took a stun here, it wouldn't be a problem because nothing's on cooldown, right? It wouldn't delay the cooldown factor. But because block damage is on all of these champions, he's not going to use that block damage buff. And so we're utilizing the AI here to ensure that that block damage goes up at the consistent time, at the right time, continuously for these champions. It's a very cool thing to kind of figure out how to do. And that's kind of the trick with the AI in this game. It's not very good, generally. So you have to figure out ways to work with it and work around it. This is one I'm really excited about and I think is pretty neat. There's a fair amount of people that have 2 towers. How do you use 2 towers? It becomes tricky because of this AI mechanic. Well, this is definitely one way we can do it. And it's a way we can do it and make it work on Nightmare as well as Ultra Nightmare. And you might say, well, is this any better than, a tower and some other, like the Santa Unkillable, for example? And I think yes. We're not taking double turns, but what we are doing is we have 3 champions that are DPS champions. You can bring a counterattack champion in here. It's not going to affect it. We're not alternating the speeds on this composition. It's all going at the same speed. So yeah, you can bring in counterattack champions. You can bring in anybody that doesn't affect turn meter or speed. So obviously, because we don't have a Pain Keeper, it's even easier to set up, right? So yeah, I think this is a wonderful composition. I think it's going to be useful for people, and I'm going to let this run. We're going to kind of jump. We'll let this run for a minute, then we'll jump to the end, and we'll be able to see the kind of damage we're doing. And like I said, Thane not booked. So We have a lot more damage potential in this composition than we're showing right now. There you go, guys. Almost 30 million damage. Not too shabby. Once we get Fane fully booked, and I think we can actually improve some of the damage on some of these damage dealing champions, this should go up a lot. I'm confident this is a one key Nightmare team when we get to higher gear levels. But considering that we were not quite there, this was basically a 4 key Ultra Nightmare account before we started. I think this is actually really, really impressive because we're going to do very similar damage on Ultra Nightmare, and that's what I want to show you guys next. Before we get into that, though, I do want to show you the champions that we're using here. Okay, guys, we're here. We're about to run the Ultra Nightmare. I just want to show you, I did switch the speed, so he's now at 218, the slow Man-Eater. Same speed as the fast Man-Eater. That's how you get this to work. We are bringing in Doom Priest, as I said, right here, you can see. And yeah, everything else is the same. Now, this is Affinity, so they're going to target Doom Priest. This is actually why we can't bring in a Bad Alcazar or a Gerp Tuck, because they'll get targeted and they'll throw off the cooldown for their cleanse ability. And so that's a small issue. So we want to make sure we avoid that problem. Doom Priest is the best choice, and quite frankly, as far as I can tell, the only choice, unless you can find a cleanser that works on a different affinity from a different affinity champion, which I know they're out there. So that's definitely something you can do instead. But this is how this one's going to work. So let's go ahead and jump in, and we'll go over exactly how this is going to work here. So, like I said, just like before, the auto got away from me there, but it doesn't matter. We are going to be in sync starting turn count 7. So just one turn later, Ultra Nightmare. It's the same thing, Void or Spirit. Doesn't matter. That's when we come into sync. Just the getting there is a little bit different. So that's something you're just going to have to figure way out yourself. But basically, we're just going to go and take our turns and go through and just make sure we get to that point. We don't have to worry about the affinity. Doom Priest is going to do the work on that. One of the advantages of a Doom Priest, she does bring in that increase attack buff, which means everybody's going to hit harder, which is so lovely. I love seeing 300k hits from Septimus. It is a beautiful thing. Everybody else is just going to kind of use their skills. And our goal is just make sure that our fast tower has his Unkillable available by the time that we hit turn count 7. So that's really the only thing we're looking at right now. Stick with me till we get through this, guys. We're almost there. Turn count 6. So we got one more turn to go, and then we're going to be unkillable. I want to actually save this if I can. I'd like to save it to make sure that we have all of our unkillables available, so we're not outrunning any of the buffs. This is the last time that we're going to be vulnerable. There it is. Don't have to worry about it anymore, guys. First attack from this tower. Boom. And then we get everybody else is going to go. A1 here. Fane heads up. Beautiful, beautiful. Septimus goes. Excellent. And then we put the unkillable up right there, and we should be on auto. Doom Priest cleanses the speed because we're going at our slow tower is going fast enough. That cleanse comes in at the right time to keep us in tune, so we don't have to worry about falling out of tune. Just like before, we're not going to be putting those unkillables up until it falls off everybody else. Because of that, block damage will be up the full time. It runs just like it did on Nightmare. Some simple questions I know most of you are going to ask me. Can I bring somebody else instead of Septimus or Fane or one of those two? Absolutely. Bring in whoever you want. Bring in a Martyr, bring in Counterattack. Doesn't matter. You can bring in anybody that does damage and doesn't affect turn meter. Always crucial. Can you use somebody instead of Tower? Well, not with this composition. This is very specific tower composition. You need 2 towers to be able to run this. So I know, not for everybody. That's okay. The thing is, it's very tower specific. Just stick with that. Otherwise, what else can you do? Can you use somebody instead of Doom Priest? As I said, as long as they are not Force Affinity, you can use somebody else instead of Doom Priest to cleanse. And do you need to cleanse the stun? Actually, no, you don't. The stun doesn't matter. If it hits one of our DPSs, obviously it's not preferred, but that's okay. If it hits Doom Priest, that's not a problem because it's Doom Priest. She cleanses herself all the time. If it hits the towers, it's not a problem because they're 4-turn cooldowns. We're taking 5 turns to use them. So the stun actually doesn't affect him. One of the beautiful things about this comp, usually when you have a tower team, you're worried about one of the towers taking the stun. It doesn't matter here. It's actually preferable because the towers do less damage than the other champions. So it doesn't matter if they get stunned. Now, can I use a Battle Khazar or a Gerp Tuck or somebody else? You can, but only in a specific sense. That means you have to have somebody else take that stun. And that can be problematic. But if you paired them with, say, a Skull Crusher who puts up counterattack on everybody else, and you time that out, it could be useful. But remember, that stun is going to delay those cooldowns, so it can get a little tricky. So just be aware of that. The best way is to just use Doom Priest in this. Or if there's another cleanser from a different affinity, that can work too. As I said, there is definitely some potential to improve the damage of this composition. Obviously, the Great Hall is going to have a major effect on a lot of this stuff, increasing the crit rate, the crit damage, booking Fane. I cannot express how important that is. Being able to keep decreased defense and weaken up the full fight, being able to keep those poisons up the full fight, those things matter a lot. You also don't need to use Septimus in this team. You could definitely just do definitely as good, if not maybe more damage, by using a different champion who's maybe a better affinity, but it's just going to bring poisons. An Aethar comes to mind, obviously not for red affinity, or for green affinity, but that kind of idea is going to be great. You get a Draco, you get a Narma. There's lots of champions that can be really beneficial for this team outside of the ones that I'm showing here. But yeah, that's the squad. You can see we're doing about 500k hit. We're going to be a 3-key team on affinity with this team. Easy, with room to improve. So I'm pretty happy with this. We'll kind of skip towards the end so you guys can actually see the damage that we're doing here. Okay, guys. That's a 3-key team, or like right on the edge of it, right? Just to take a little bit of adjustment. And this is a 3-key Ultra Nightmare team. A little better RNG. I cannot tell you how frustrated I am not to be able to see this with Fane booked, because she does a lot of damage, but she needs to be able to get those cooldowns done, right? She needs to be able to get those skills back up and running. But I think this is just a fantastic composition. Now, if you can bring in a more steady poisoner than like Fane or maybe even Septimus, I think you can do a lot of damage. You can put Doom Priest in a toxic set. I think that would actually do a lot for adding some damage, especially for this where you're missing one DPS champion. That can help fill up that debuff bar. And adding some poisons to this team would make this very easily a 2-key team, I think. So a lot of potential with this. I'm very happy with this. I think this is a really cool kind of composition. I will have this on the website, so if you have questions about it, you can go there and find the tune. So double Roschard the Tower. Not too bad, right? Double tower team, double Tower Unkillable. Tower Unkillable! You will never take our tower. I'm super happy with this. I think it's always cool to find something a little bit new. And it's cool to find different ways to utilize your champions. And this, to me, is the essence of speed tuning. You take what you have, and you find the best way to use it. Now, there's with 2 towers and a Sir Nicholas and a Painkeeper, there's obviously a myriad of ways you can go about building a team. This isn't the only one. We could do a Tower Skull Crusher composition as well. This is another very strong, unkillable squad. But I felt like I had to try this, see what it was about, and I'm very happy with it. I think this actually works exceedingly well, and I'm personally very pleased with it. I'm excited to see where this gets to. One of my favorite things about building these teams is not just making a team perfect, but actually leaving room for the person I'm doing a takeover for to improve it further. Not like I want to leave room for them, but it's nice when you're at a count of this level, there is room to improve. It gives you something to shoot for. And that feels really good when you're able to take your own team and take it to that next level. So I'm really excited to see where this gets to. Hopefully this was informative and helpful for you all. And if it was, then please go ahead, hit that subscription button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button down below. It was been a pleasure talking to you guys. I cannot wait till the next time. And until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.